Hi and welcome back to our channel, where we recap your favorite video games for you. Today we will be recapping a comedic first-person shooter video game called High on Life. So without further ado, let's begin! The game's opening scene begins with our protagonist playing some 3D games on his computer when his sister, Lizzie, comes knocking into his room and scolding him about saying goodbye to their parents as they left for a week. He goes downstairs to read a note from his mother stuck on the fridge before heading out with Lizzie to gather supplies for the party she was throwing later that night. But in the midst suddenly appears a spaceship of aliens and their neighbor Mr. Pilfrey gets eaten by one. Our protagonist gets hold of Kevin, a talking gun and a Gatlian from a dead alien, and is guided by him to steal a wrap drive from their base up front, and he, while shooting aliens, head back to his house and places the wrap drive on the counter. The leader of the aliens, called the G3 cartel, broadcasts to the Earth declaring them as his property, and Kevin wraps their whole house to another coexistence in space called the Blim City. They start looking for Gene in Blim City and find him near a bench who had left bounty hunting after being evicted and now lived on the streets. Gene gives his bounty hunter suit and equipment in exchange for moving into their house and sets up the base of operations there, but the suit wasn't activated and he has to find the activation key at a pawn shop there. Our protagonist, now officially a bounty hunter, is tasked to kill a local gangster named Nine Torg who had stolen Gene's knife and ruled over the slums of Blim City. To get into the slums, Kevin helps settle a bet between two aliens who guarded the slums, and after getting access, our hunter goes down there, killing some Torg foot soldiers on his way and asking a fisherman about the whereabouts of the Nine Torg. Heads there with Kevin. Hunter gets hold of the knife, pretending to buy it from some foot soldiers, and with its help heads to Sludgeworks processing plant where she was interrogating another clone. Hunter kills Torg's army and fights with the evil Nine Torg and kills her with the knife, convincing him to get some proof, and meets 5 Torg there who, after Nine Torg was dead, took over the territory. They head back through the slums tunnel and shanty district to their house where Gene, expecting them to die, had installed some new locks. Gene, impressed, tells them to turn in the bounty in Bounty 5000 and asking if they were serious about the big leagues. Sends them to get the Dodge unit for the suit while he initiated bounties for them. After getting the unit, they head for home, and from the Bounty Hunter 5000 given a choice, Hunter goes after Kirby's first, a G3 head officer, and travels through a time passage into the Zephyr Paradise, a forest. There they find that the G3 had enslaved the village of the local tribe Moplets, who had lived there and helped free them from their grasp. Kirby's location was unknown, and the leader of Moplets guides them to a man Ranchi who lived in a mansion and might know about the whereabouts of Kirby's. They head there and Ranchi gives them a warp device but is clueless about Kirby's whereabouts. They use the warp device to cross the river and head back to the Moplet tribe, hoping to ask them more questions. With the warp device in their hands, they could warp to Curtis directly but needed some things first to do it, so they head to the mines where they face some more G3 aliens on an outpost. They head down into the mines and kill some more aliens and do some office work in hopes of finding Kirby's at his office, and later find his coordinates marked on his computer. Looking for an empty warp disk, they ask some Moplets and find their prince, the Chosen One, had loads of them, and clear out a base of G3 in the sacred grounds for them in return for the warp disk. Kevin suggests going to Ranchi and asking him to encode, but he declines, only to encode if they get his Fergal's fix first. Ranchi passes out and they use his encoder. Kevin suggests the crazy idea of swapping his mansion using the warp disk for Curtis's base, and they engage with Curtis deep in the mines. Hunter defeats Curtis after farming his bounty and gets another Gatlian, Gus, from him. Gus gets on board with their plan of taking down the G3 cartel, and Hunter heads home, finishing more G3 aliens and traveling through a time passage. After settling an argument between Lizzie and Gene, Hunter submits the bounty of Curtis and heads for the second head officer, Douglas. Traveling through the passage, Hunter finds himself in the middle of a desert with a sandstorm, and they start exploring where Kevin explains this was the pre-G3 old town. Hunter finds a way across the old town through the Mac and Cheese Brothers construction site and finds Old Wet Grundy near the gates of the old town, who gives them some info and lets them through. Douglas was in the Dreg town, underground, and to go down there they have to clear some G3 aliens lurking in the east and west sides of the town. A guard lets them through, and using an elevator they make it into Dreg Town, which was built on the bottom of an asteroid and used as a training facility, with Douglas being its head. They get gooped up and go into the orientation of G3, where they are tested in battlefield training along with other contenders with obstacle courses and enemies, before escaping the training facility and find Dr. Juppie, whose whole family had been kidnapped by Douglas, and helps him, and he, in return, guides them to Douglas's office. Taking a zip line towards his office, Hunter accidentally finds himself in the final stage of G3 training, and moving forward again helps Dr. Juppie get into Douglas's office, only to find Juppie was, in fact, Douglas, and he had played them. Hunter and Kevin dodge his traps and kill him, freeing another Gatlian Sweezy from him. Using Sweezy's time bubble power, Hunter gets home and submits Douglas's bounty, after which he watches Clug's broadcast on the TV with Gene, who had been an anti-G3 for a very long time, and portals to his office. They meet up with Magistrate Clugs, who hands them a device that will help save the human species and promises to provide more intel on other G3 cartel heads. Gene advises Hunter to get a jetpack from the pawn shop, and with the jetpack order placed, Hunter rests up and then takes the jetpack for a joyride before getting home. Lizzie had found a new boyfriend, Tweeg, in Blim, and after settling an argument between the two, Hunter goes to explore the Skurdril labs through a portal. With the Skindril brothers being their new target, they find that the Moplets were again captured and working for them. They approach Helen at the desk looking for info, but she calls the alarm on them, and Hunter fights off the security before heading to the labs. There they find experiments being run on humans and rescue another Gatlian called Creature, and using his powers explore deeper into the labs. Hunter fights with the security before finally coming face to face with Jonathan Skrendel, one of the brothers. Jonathan fights with Hunter but runs away in the end, chasing him through a cloning facility and fighting off more security. Hunter now fights Angela Skrendel, but he runs away as well, and at last comes face to face with Mona Skrendel and the other two and kills them all. Gatmantuous, as he is about to head home, contacts through a broadcast saying he will come after him and they would never reach his facility on Earth given they didn't have its proper coordinates. Hunter, traveling through the portal, finds himself back at home where Tweeg, Lizzie's boyfriend, was also present there, and after submitting the Skrendel bounty, he resolves yet another argument between Gene and Lizzie. With the argument resolved, Hunter uses the Bounty 5000 machine to find his next target, but Gene stops him midway, telling him about a powerful Gatlian in the possession of another G3 scientist, Dr. Giblets, whom they had no info on. Gene enables a detective mode in Hunter's suit, and with his help, he goes on to interrogate the residents of the Blim to find any info on Dr. Giblets. He finally finds a lead from a guy named Michael Taint, who guides him to ask another person, Blordo. Blordo's scared for his life, points them in the direction of the store owned by Dr. Giblets called High on Life. Hunter checks out the store and interrogates the employees there, who pitch to him an item called Hyper Bong that could even somehow help you smoke humans. Not finding anything of help, he heads home, but he's stopped midway by two guys in suits who threaten him to not poke his nose in the Giblets business. Hunter acquires another helpful item called Mag Boots that let him jump higher, and goes home only to find the same guys in suits present there. It turns out those guys were with Mr. Clugs, and having a bad impression of Hunter wronged him, so they take him to Mr. Clugs' office, where he apologizes and hands him a map having possible clues for the location of Mr. Giblets. Hunter heads to Zephyr to find Dr. Giblets. In Zephyr, they find a dramatic Moplet on the verge of death who points them to Dr. Giblets' base, and they go there. Hunter engages the detective mode in his suit, and they start looking for clues in his base, deducing that Dr. Giblet was performing experiments on his henchmen and had gone paranoid, killing everyone in his base. They explore further only to find Dr. Giblet, but before they could do anything, the paranoid alien kills himself and Hunter collects a sample of his DNA. Dr. Giblet had designed a game for the person who finds him after his death, and Hunter, along with Kevin, are forced to play it, killing aliens in their way before discovering a new Gatlin in his possession, barely alive. They take it back home to Gene, who promises to save its life, but also gives them the bad news that Lizzie, with her boyfriend Tweeg, was missing, and Hunter, leaving the rest of Gatlians to Gene, leaves with Kevin in search of her. They go to the Applebee's diner situated in the slums and ask the receptionist about Tweeg, who worked there, but come to know he hadn't shown up for his shift. Kevin anxiously asks the Hunter to sit there in the diner, and they take a table for two. Kevin then reveals the story about the takeover of G3 on his planet Gatlas, and how he was involved by helping the smuggler Rel Del Mar, who took his advantage and led the G3 straight to them. Les DeWitt, his friend, had led a rebellion but got caught, and he knew about the fact that Kevin was the cause of this. Kevin, now worried that he would be accused by other Gatlins of this, sits in front of Hunter when they notice Lizzie outside with Tweeg. They get out of the diner only to find Blim City being invaded by the G3, and Gene takes the blame as he had put out advertisements of the bounty hunter leading the G3s to their home, and they head back killing aliens before making it to the house. Kevin warps their house to Gatlas, his home planet, where they were safe for a while. Gene sets up some things while Hunter takes a rest and goes chasing Lizzie after Gene finds a bio-signal of her in space. Hunter and Kenny persuade Lizzie to come home and find that Tweed was going to rat them out to G3s anyway, which helps in the persuasion, and Lizzie comes home. At home, Kenny finally tells the truth about his involvement in the takeover, and the other Gatlins get mad at him, but Gene intervenes, phrasing Nipulin, their next target, could move his coordinates, stating they should go after him right away, and through a portal, they head to the old town once again. The Gatlins talk things over in a saloon about the Kevin situation, and Hunter looks for the Goop guy but finds that his Gooper Tooper was sick and needed medicine, so they decide to help him. Heading for the west side of the old town, Hunter gets the medicine by doing a task for the Mac and Cheese Construction Brothers, and after getting gooped up they go to Nipulin Lounge where they face his G3 security and get to Nipulin's office where they battle it out. Nipulin dozes Hunter and confuses him with hallucinations, but the Gatlins help him together and he's defeated. They find Earth's coordinates in his office, and after retrieving his DNA, head home. With Earth's coordinates finally in their hands and the most powerful Gatlin, let's do it, fixed by Gene, their house is warped back to Earth, but Gene informs Hunter that from here on, he is on his own and gives him a remote atomizer bomb along with Lesduit to help him in his fight against the Garmantuous. With his final goodbyes done, Hunter steps out and faces the G3S out on the Earth and follows the G3 vacuum pipe before getting on the road and clearing the warp bases. Garmantuous' shield gets taken down and Hunter regroups in the park. From there, they again follow the tubes, traversing through them with the help of Kenny and other Gatlins' abilities, and make it to the boss arena where Garmantuous comes flying in his spacecraft and the battle starts. Garmantuous attacks them vigorously, and Hunter, dodging his attacks, manages to counterattack and his spaceship is brought to the ground crashing. Kenny urges him to place the bomb in his internals and Hunter shoves the bomb in him, but soon enough they find that the trigger was broken and Garmantuous, now back to his senses, fights them again. Hunter gets back to it and Garmantuous gets knocked down again. Kenny, offering to sacrifice himself, goes into his internals and blows up the bomb internally and somehow survives. Garmantuous was dead. The universe was saved and the game ends here. Thanks for watching, and if you liked it then please consider liking our video and subscribing to our channel so you never miss out on any of our videos. We will see you in the next one.